Hi, I'm Skilla, and this is Nerd Stuff with Skilla. Today I'm going to be talking about the second episode of The Gifted, the new Fox TV show centering around mutants. Episode 2 is called RX for reasons that will become obvious later on. I will talk about some spoilers in this video, so if you haven't seen the newest episode, go ahead and go watch it and then come back to me in a minute. This episode was really good. I really enjoyed it start to finish. I was intrigued. I thought the action was good. I thought the graphics looked good. The acting was good. It was well directed. Sound design on point. This whole episode was really good. It might have been better than the premiere, and certainly better than the other Marvel TV show that's going on right now. I'm really excited to talk about it. So this episode begins with the Strucker family at the bowling alley with Reed's mother. It starts off as kind of a cute little scene, and then there's a confrontation between a little mutant girl who's like shaking really hard and like visibly like moving back and forth. And then she like ends up getting really mad and yells and like knocks a bunch of people back. Reed goes up and he's like, look, I know that you guys aren't trying to cause any trouble, but hey, your kid just did this and that could totally get you guys in trouble with the law, so you guys need to move along. Which kind of gives you an idea of how Reed really feels about mutants, even though his kids are mutants. You know, he's been dealing with this for a long time, and he's clearly not always on the side of mutants just for the sake of being on the side of people who are having kind of a civil rights crisis. That was a year ago, and now we're in the present, and Reed is being detained, and they're telling him that he is about to be charged with terrorism because they're looking at categorizing the mutant underground as a terrorist group, and his involvement in trying to find them through illegal means could classify him as a terrorist as well. And they're trying to figure out a way to get him to help them take down the mutant underground who are helping his family. They also later on let him know that they've got his mother and they are interrogating her. She says that she marched against apartheid and things like that. So I wonder exactly how Reed's mother feels about how he isn't exactly a champion for civil rights. Vampire Bill, you know, he was all about some vampire rights back in the True Blood days. I'm just saying. I do like that Stephen Moyer's got a pretty good handle on an American accent. I think that sometimes he failed a little bit on that in True Blood, but I think he's doing a really legit job of it in this series. So that's good. Blink got hurt when they were trying to escape, and she's like kind of knocked out. She's got a huge fever, and she is periodically releasing these big portals that Lauren is having to shut closed with her like air bubble shield dudes. Caitlin and Eclipse have to run out and find her some drugs. They go to the doctor, and they get him into the ER room, and like the doctor notices that Caitlin's got some like scratches on her from their escape, and he's like, hey, is this mutant? We know that they have a history of abusing their loved ones, so maybe you want to report something to me. And she's like, nah, dude, I'm good. That's really weird of you to do. But that guy goes and gets the cops to chase after them, so they gotta leave the hospital in a hurry. They get the medicine that they need for Blink, and they run back to the safe house. And we see a lot of other mutants when they come back to the safe house than we saw before. We get our introduction to Dreamer, who has the ability to add and remove memories from people. We see like a white, like really like abnormally white-skinned lady with big red hair. I think that might be Mercury from Academy X, but I'm not really sure. I was looking through my personal X-Men books and trying to figure out who some of these background characters are, and like just blinding myself on my phone doing research on different body types of different mutants that we see in this episode, and I got overwhelmed and I had to stop. I found information on some of those characters, but some of them I couldn't find information on because there's 5 billion issues of X-Men related content in comic book form, and nobody knows all of those characters, and if you do, like, you're some kind of crazy genius, but I am not. I tried, I did my best, I really did, and I'm sure we'll find out more about these characters in future episodes. The other story that we're following, I am going to call Polaris is the New Black, in which she is detained in prison. They've put these like shock collars on all of mutants who are in prison so that if they try to access their mutant powers, they get shocked. She tries to make a friendship with this like stone cracked, like super white, like staunch white skinned mutant. And she's like, nah, dude, get away from me. And then she has kind of a rumble with this group of normal humans. And she like fights through the power of her stun necklace thing to grab this big metal table and like slam this Scarface chick against this big fence. And then she gets rewarded with getting put in the hole, and that's the last we see of Polaris in this episode. Caitlin and Eclipse steal some medicine from the doctor's office that they were just at, and they get back to the compound, and they give them to blink, and things immediately get better. Now, throughout this whole episode, she's been opening portals pretty much to the same place every time, this place on the highway, and cops are periodically getting more and more involved in the space where she is opening the portal to. Andy actually uses his powers a little bit, so it looks like maybe he's getting a little bit more control, or maybe it was just an act of desperation that led him to be able to use them. Lauren seems to have a really solid control of her powers, which is cool. We don't know yet why she was opening up to that spot in the highway. The scene leads you to believe that there's probably a reason for that, but we don't know that yet. When Caitlin and Eclipse get back to the safe house, Blink is opening all of these portals like all over the place while she's in her like semi-catatonic state. Like she's like having kind of grand mal type seizure situations going on, her fever's through the roof, and they pump her full of some medicine and everything gets better. And that's pretty much where that bit ends. Afterwards, Vampire Bill takes a deal with the devil, and he says that he's going to help them take down the Mutant Underground in return for his family being safe. Now, I don't believe for a second that this DA is going to let his kids go, and I really think it's messed up that Vampire Bill's going to do that. These are the only people who wanted to help him, and now he's going to turn his back on them, or at least say that he's going to turn his back on them to get what he needs out of the situation. The next big thing that happens in this episode is the very end. We get introduced to Roderick Campbell, who in the X-Men universe, he was the leader of a group called the Hounds who were hunting down mutants. He's a bad guy, and I think he's going to be probably the main bad guy in this season. Now, we see him looking up incidents of sibling mutants doing bad things, and it kind of leads us to believe that maybe we're going to see Andrea and Andreas von Strucker, because it was like, the article said something about like blonde-haired, blue-eyed mutants, siblings who like make this big explosion in Rio de Janeiro in 1962. And because our main characters are the Strucker family, I would not be shocked in the least if the two mutants known as Fenris, if they are ancestors of the Strucker family. Like in some way they have to be related. Like it would be really weird for them to not make them related. Given that it seems like they're hinting at the Von Struckers and the main family's name is Strucker. So I think that's what's going to happen. Maybe not in the next episode, but somewhere within this season we get some sort of connection between Andrea and Andreas and the Strucker family. Like since they brought in their grandma into the situation, we'll probably get a reveal from her, I think. Like she probably knows more about the situation, and maybe because she is on the side of civil rights towards mutants, she probably knows that mutant gene runs in the family. This episode is really cool to me. One of the best scenes in this whole episode is when, I think it's the first big portal that she accidentally opens, and a truck comes careening towards the portal, and then the portal shuts. But it cuts off the back half of this truck and it slams into the safe house, and it looked really good. The next thing I want to talk about is that The Gifted is absolutely talking about social issues. Now, this is something that X-Men has always done. It's always talked about things like discrimination and people getting rounded up and people having the government against them because of how they are born. They've always dealt with issues of race and sexuality and religion and things like that. Now, because they are labeling Reed as a terrorist, and because the mutants say within this episode that they don't have the same civil rights as regular humans do, I really think that they're going to be getting at a lot of those social issues, a lot of race-related issues, just like they should do. It's important in this day and age, and it is a quintessential bit of X-Men lore, is the struggle between mutants and humans, and how humans are scared of mutants because they're different, which is exactly how all types of discrimination start. And I think it's really important that they're doing that. I think they're doing it really well. They're executing it. And this show is really good so far. I'm very excited for the rest of the season. I was pumped to watch this episode, and I've just been doing research about it for like 2 hours now, trying to figure out who these background mutants are, and if maybe some of them are people who I know about. I mean, obviously there's so many characters that it's hard for me to say that I know, most of the characters who they're going to be introducing. But I'm really excited about this. I hope that you're watching it too, because I think that it's one of the better things that we've seen recently as far as TV's concerned in the superhero genre. That's it for this week. Come back and talk to me again next week. Give me a big thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Make sure to comment down below with your favorite moment from RX, the second episode of The Gifted, and subscribe if you want to hear about more nerdy stuff from me. As always, thank you so much for watching.